All right, what's up, everybody? Hey, sorry I am a few minutes late, but welcome to the Facebook Live on muscle building. All right, this one has been a long time coming. So, I am super excited to break down everything that I've learned for a really long period of time. I also want to make sure that I have this new software. So comment so I can make sure that you guys are seeing it. Um, there we go. You guys can see it. All right. We are golden. We are golden. Okay, cool. So basically, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to break down exercise, nutrition, supplementation, and an overall view of what muscle building actually really means. Like, I feel like there's so many different there's sorry, my mom is calling. She does this every single time I have a Facebook Live. It is hilarious. Um, so also let me know how this mic sounds. Let me know that you guys can sound me okay. I don't sound like I'm too far away or anything like that. So um okay, so I'm gonna go straight into exercise, then I'm gonna break down nutrition, then I'm gonna break down supplements because I feel like I've been trying to build muscle for like 15 years, guys. Like straight up. I've read every article, I've tried every diet, I've hired coaches. I did the bodybuilding thing for a while. I'm doing the CrossFit thing. I've done the strength and conditioning thing. I've literally yeah, I could turn that mic up a little bit if you guys can't hear me that well. I will get that maybe a little closer to my face. How about that? Should be good. Should be good. Volume is low. Okay, well, let's see here. Let me know how I am now. I turned it up a little bit. I just want to make sure that you guys drop the mic. Let me know if you guys can hear me now, okay? So basically, can you turn it up? You guys can't hear it, huh? How about now? Volume good now? Better. Deal. Perfect. All right, we are golden. Okay, so these are the misconceptions, guys. Let's just go over those first. The people who are going to want to stay tuned into this live, or anybody who's trying to turn up your volume, people are giving me mixed signals here, guys. I'm going to have to stop listening to your comments. Okay, so people who want to listen to this, if you're trying to boost your metabolism through building muscle, definitely want to listen to this. If you're trying to just build muscle because you want to look good, definitely want to listen to this. If you're trying to build muscle to boost performance, definitely want to listen to this. Now, those are three completely different people, okay? Three different people. But the reason why I say this is going to work for everybody is because the science is all the same, okay? The science is all the same. Hold on one second. There we go. There we go. There we go. Okay. The science is all the same, guys. So when you understand the scientific components of building muscle, it all starts to make sense. And that is what we focus on here, is giving you guys absorbable information that just makes sense. So a lot of you guys have focused on weight loss, right? We're all worried about losing fat, but we all want to build muscle at the same time. Well, here's the truth to that. For the majority of the people, that is not possible. And you're going to understand why when I am done with this live. So when you see people who like post these transformations where they're like, hey, I lost 30 pounds and I gained 20 pounds of muscle, I'm going to tell you that's a bunch of crap. I'm sorry. If that's you, maybe by listening to this, this will make more sense to you and you can actually put on the muscle. I'm not hating on anybody. There's just a lot of misconceptions in the health and fitness market when it comes to muscle building and when it comes to fat loss. And they are two very different things. Now, I will say it is possible to do both at the same time. Don't get me wrong. There are some genetic freaks out there. You know who you are. I am not one of them. That is why I know what I know, because I am not a genetic freak. I was forced to learn all the different strategies, okay? And I found some core concepts that are just game changers. And anytime I share this information with people that I'm training with or in the gym, it just makes sense. So it makes sense for me to bring this to you. So we're just going to go straight in because I hate when people talk about a bunch of crap on the front of their live and it's like, dude, get to the point. I'm over it already. Okay, cool. So this is a very important concept to understand. When you are focused on weight loss or fat loss, your number one priority is nutrition, okay? Your number two priority is exercise. When you're focused on muscle building, your number one priority is training. Your number two priority is nutrition. Now, I walk a fine line with that because I always say you cannot out-train a bad diet. But when you're building muscle, the training is extremely important. I see too many people doing training routines that are not going to build any muscle. And they're talking about how they want to build muscle, okay? Building muscle is actually tearing muscle down. That is the most important aspect. When you learn how to effectively tear your muscle down, because remember, when you're in the gym, you're not building muscle, you're tearing it down. So when you effectively learn how to tear muscle down at a specific rate, what comes next? Well, it's got to repair itself, right? Well, the human body loves to adapt to a stimulus. So the more the stimulus, the tearing down of the muscle, the more rebuilding, aka recovery, which would be food, supplements, and sleep. When you find what that like ratio is, you will build all the muscle you want. Now, I know that sounds easy, but you have to understand the concepts that make you hit plateaus. That's the important part. Those are the people, and you know who I'm talking about. I eat everything. I can't gain weight. I eat everything. I can't gain weight. I do the workouts. I do the training. I take all the supplements. I can't put on muscle. I can't put on muscle. And then I'm just going to say it. You see a lot of people resorting to anabolics because they hit these plateaus and they see these people that look some type of way with their double biflex on the magazine. So, the anabolic becomes a secret when really they're just not maximizing their genetic potential. And we can all do that by just a few steps. So now that we know the importance when it comes to muscle building is exercise. So I thought I had coffee in here, but I don't. So anyway, I also have some notes here in case I got to write some stuff down so I don't remember to come back to it. Exercise, number one component. So let's talk about the three different types of exercising. Well, three different types of training, right? Because the only way to build muscle is to tear the muscle down. So that means you got to move some weight. So there's endurance, hypertrophy, and strength and power. Those are the three. Now I see a lot of people doing more endurance-based exercise routines. What does that mean? That means you see Athena's tail back here? This is when she starts growling when I do Facebook Lives. She does this on purpose. So I see a lot of people doing endurance-based routines like Orange Theory. I don't mean to throw them out there, but things like Orange Theory, things that are high intensity, high heart rate, those are designed for muscular endurance. Those are designed to stimulate the heart rate. Those are not necessarily going to create a deep enough stimulus to actually tear the muscle tissue down effectively to allow you to rebuild it later on, okay? The important part is the hypertrophy and the strength and power, and I'm going to tell you why. And when you dive into those workout routines, then you got to think about compound movements. I'm going to tell you why some of you don't know what those are. So when you do hypertrophy training, you guys have probably heard about this. Honestly, you probably read about it in magazines. I mean, that's when I think back, when I think hypertrophy, I remember all these workouts that were like hypertrophy training. So basically what that is it's a rep range where you're failing at, typically it's like 10 to 12 or 8 to 10 or whatever, 12 to 15. That's typically a range that when you're moving a weight heavy enough that you fail in that range, you're creating enough stimulus on the muscle so that it breaks down adequately. Now, that is a great place to start when it comes to muscle building. Why? Because you're training just intense enough, but not too intense that you can recover in time to do it again more frequently over time. So here's what happens. Here's what hypertrophy means. You're going to shape the muscle. You're going to morph, build, and shape it. Doesn't mean it's going to get stronger. Don't confuse that. That is a different type of training. This is just going to shape the overall muscle. It is your body consistently over time adapting to the stimulus. So the muscle shape will form. Now, strength and power. That consists of more compound movements going very intensely for short amount of reps, anywhere from like 2 to 4 to 6, somewhere around there. You're failing at a very heavy rate. Now, here's the downside to that. It takes longer to recover because of the load on the muscle. But the strength and power is needed. You got to pay attention here. The strength and power is needed to boost your strength for the hypertrophy training, because the hypertrophy training is what shapes the muscle. See what I'm saying here? So when you hit the plateau, usually your plateau is in strength. You'll see a lot of bodybuilders, right? They're big, round, and big, and they're not that strong. And then you see a strong man or a power lifter, and they don't look like the bodybuilders at all. The bodybuilders look way stronger, but the power lifters are way stronger. The power exercise, the compound movements that you're using at those lower rep ranges, here's what it's stimulating. One, it's building the ligaments and the joints. It's making the bones more dense. It's making you stronger and more powerful, but it's also stimulating growth hormone. That is very important. When you're dealing with compound movements, it is very important that when you're lifting heavy to understand that it's stimulating growth hormone, it's stimulating testosterone, it's stimulating the hormones that are going to allow you to build more muscle, because the hypertrophy training will only take you so far. The stronger you get, the more hypertrophy training you could do, the more you could shape the muscle. Therefore, the more control you have over the way the muscle looks. Okay, guys? So that's a very simple concept. You can go find anywhere some type of power, I don't want to say powerlifting, but some type of strength training where the reps are low. Or here's my recommendation to you that I'll go over at the end. I like to start my workouts with the heavier exercises, the things where I'm going at a lower rep range, anywhere from 2 to 6, heavy, stimulating. That's when you have the most energy. That's when you have the most power. That will help build that component that you need. Then I will go into more of a hypertrophy training. The rep ranges get a little bit higher, but you're still failing within those ranges. Why? That's going to break down more of the muscle tissue and allow you to do that more frequently because it's not as heavy. Now, you can still finish with an endurance-based exercise, more volume, higher rep. What's that going to do? It's going to pump fresh oxygenated blood into the muscle cell. You see how you can use all three of those together like a hybrid version, where this is what you see bodybuilders doing in the gym all the time. You see them, you can't figure out what they're doing. They come in one day, they're benching really heavy and they're doing like 2 to 3 reps. And the other day they're doing 12 rep supersets, and then they're doing like burnouts on the biceps. I just explained all the different concepts that they're doing and why they are doing it. That is the foundation for the exercise component of this whole thing. When you understand that, that's when you start to build muscle. If the nutrition is there. See, this is why this is in order, guys. Now, most of you are probably listening to this going, okay, well, I don't train hypertrophy and I don't train strength. That's why you're not building muscle. I'm sorry, but you got to stop going to those fitness classes. Nothing against it, but you might have to stop going to those because that's why you're not building the muscle. Everybody is different. Doesn't mean you can't come back to that. Cross training, I'm a big fan of it. I'm a huge fan. I think the body needs to be stimulated in multiple different aspects so it doesn't get hurt. Flexibility, mobility, things like that. But for the foundation of building actual muscle, These are very core concepts that everybody needs to understand if they really want to get to that point of actually building muscle, not just hopping on a scale and going, oh, my weight's up 5 pounds, so I put 5 pounds of muscle. Highly doubt it. Let me tell you another thing about the science behind muscle. It is very hard to put on, very hard. So those of you watching who are true bodybuilders, who know the science, doing it naturally, I mean, 2 to 3 pounds a year, maybe 4 pounds a year of true, lean, dense, dry muscle tissue. No joke. If you've never worked out in your life, you will have, they call it something, but it's like when you first start training, you'll get a high stimulus of it and you'll put on muscle fast right away. But for those of you who've been lifting for a long time and you guys know who I'm talking about, very hard to put on true muscle. You can literally change your body weight with carbs and water and sodium, but to actually put on real lean muscle is very, very hard to do. So understanding those concepts with training are super, super important. Look, I already spent 15 minutes breaking that down because that's how important it is. Now, the next thing I'm going to go into, I just want you guys to understand how that training model works, and I'll explain how you could wrap this all together at the end. The next thing you want to understand is the nutrition component. Look, we all have the ability to get motivated and go to the gym and find these training routines. You probably found one on bodybuilding.com. I don't know. We have training routines like this in our will-powered programs. I know people who have training routines like this with their personal training clients. Doesn't mean they're going to work because you got to have the nutrition lined up with it. Okay. And you guys know what I'm talking about. Those of you, and this is gonna be a light bulb moment for a lot of you who think you eat a lot, okay? So here's the number one thing for nutrition. You guys ready for this? Your gut health. Boom, said it. Some of you guys going, what? Why? I thought it needs carbs, man. Protein, got to get that protein in to build muscle. No. False. I don't care what you say, what you think about what I said. Your gut health is probably the most important aspect of building muscle. Let me tell you why. Because if you can't absorb what you're eating, you're not going to use any of it. So for those of you who are eating all the food, you eat everything. Look, if you're eating 5,000 calories a day and you're absorbing 3,000 of it, then you're not consuming 5,000 calories. You are not utilizing X amount of carbs, X amount of protein, X amount of fat. You are only utilizing what you are absorbing. That is something I wish I knew when I first got into the game years ago. You want to know the first thing I would have done? First thing I would have done is I would have went and I would have got a food allergy test. And then I would have got a gut biome or biosis or bacteria, whatever it is. Bree, she's probably watching. She knows what it is. I would have got those tests and hormones. Those are the 3 tests that I would have done first because those tell you everything you need to know about your diet when it comes to building muscle. And I'm going to tell you why. Just think about this logically, guys. Like, if your gut cannot absorb all the food that you're putting in it, how do you expect that food to work to build the muscle that you have been breaking down with all the training you've been doing? Like, think about that, right? So now you're probably going, shit, am I absorbing all my food? We don't know. Are you hitting plateaus? If you're not messing up the gym routines and you're hitting plateaus and you're eating all the food, I would almost bet you $1,000 you have something going on in your gut. Okay? So if you can't absorb it, it's not going to get utilized. You can't use it. So if I would have been on top of those 3 tests when I was doing the whole bodybuilding thing, hands down, I would have had way better results. Way better. Hands down. Here's why. Think about the typical diet that you think about when it comes to muscle building, right? Increase protein intake, increase carbohydrate intake of both high and low glycemic. We're going to get into that. High and low glycemic carbs. Increase fat intake. Increase cheat meals. Increased overall intake. Increase calorically dense foods. Now, let's just say, because this is the common American diet, guys. I'm sorry to say this, the common American diet. Our dairy quality sucks. Our protein quality sucks. And a lot of the foods we're getting in for calories, those are not getting absorbed in the body because they are highly processed. So because you're eating so much food, you're also creating high levels of toxicity in your body. And when there's high levels of toxicity in your body, you have a lot of inflammatory responses, which means if there is inflammation, you're going to lower absorption rates. You're going to cause stress on your joints. You're going to cause stress on everything else. You're going to feel heavier. You're going to feel bloated. You're going to feel thicker. Your body weight is going to fluctuate like crazy. And guess what's going to happen? Your strength is going to go down, hands down. So then it's a domino effect in the reverse order. So now let's go back to here with the gut, okay? So here's the deal, right? You're eating protein. I would argue that if you're eating shitty quality protein, you could be eating less protein of higher quality sources, and it would be doing a better job for you. Here's the other thing that I would recommend. Because on a muscle building diet, we think, gotta eat all this protein. Guys, you don't have to eat that much protein. It's actually bad for your digestive system, and it's gonna cause your digestive system to slow down, which causes absorption to slow down. Trust me, you need about 1 gram per pound of lean muscle, not body weight, lean muscle. So if you weigh 200 pounds, you don't have 200 pounds of lean muscle. Trust me, if you did, you would look like a Greek god walking around, okay? You probably have about 170 pounds, maybe 160 pounds, maybe even 150 pounds. That's all you need. If it's quality, it'll get absorbed, it'll get used. It'll get broken down into the amino acids. They'll actually get used to rebuild the tissue. Quality is king. The darker the protein, the harder it is to digest. Here's why I'm saying this. Most people who have a hard time gaining muscle, now listen to this if this is you. Most people who have a hard time gaining muscle also have a hard time digesting red meat. Correct me if I'm wrong, because that's what seems to happen every time. It's a genetic thing. Most people have a hard time putting on muscle, also have a hard time digesting dark meats. Why? Darker meats have a different, like a chemical, not chemical, but like they have a different makeup. They're denser. The tissue's more, mainly because there's fat contained in the darker meats. There's less fat in the lighter meats. So if that's you, you need to stick to lighter proteins. It's good to have the red meat every once in a while. It has natural creatine in it. That's really good for you when you're building muscle. But for the most part, if you feel that your gut does not digest meat very well, especially red meat, then tone it down. Fish usually is a little bit easier to digest as well, and you got to think about quality. Okay, guys, let me tell you one of the most common food sensitivities right now. Egg whites. I literally used to eat 10 to 12 egg whites a day when I was bodybuilding. Guess what happened? Developed a sensitivity to it. Guess when I found out? Way after bodybuilding. Guess what I could have done when I was bodybuilding if I knew that I had a food sensitivity to egg whites? What happens when you have a food sensitivity? Inflammation, lack of absorption, all kinds of stuff that you don't want to happen. That could have saved me a lot. So this is why these tests are good. A lot of us have allergies or sensitivities to dairy because the quality here is so bad. So the first thing I see people doing, we'll get this, supplements will be the next one, so I'll just wait for that. But is dairy. Why? Dairy's an easy way to get in carbs and proteins, or proteins in general. Now, a lot of people will argue with me on this, and I get it. I get your take. I get your side, and maybe we'll bring somebody on at some point. We'll have a discussion about it. But for the most part, if you have an allergy to dairy, take it out. If you don't have an allergy to dairy, go ahead and keep it in. Just if you keep it in, make sure it's high quality. Guys, your internal health is so valuable. Do not blow it just to look some type of way for some type of time for some pool party. It's not worth it. I've been there. I've done it myself. Trust me. Don't do it. Do not sacrifice the quality of your internal health. It will show up later on. So typically, dairy seems to cause a lot of inflammation in the American diet just simply because it's poor quality. So typically, that can cause a slowing of absorption of the vitamins, the minerals, and the nutrients that you are trying to get for rebuilding your muscle. Does that make sense? Okay. So protein, keep it lean. Now let's talk a little bit about the carbs. Carbs are important when you're building muscle. Now I know there's going to be people that are going to say keto, man, I'm keto for life. They got keto tattooed on their neck right here. They're die hard. I don't know what they're going to do when the keto diet goes out, but I'm not going to say it doesn't work because if you're in a caloric surplus, things can work. But carbs are extremely valuable. Why? Let's go back to the training. When you are training that hard, do you know what your body uses? It's called glycogen. You know what glycogen is? Glucose. You know what glucose is? Carbs. So you need the carbs to fuel. Remember when I first talked about I start the workouts with more of a compound movement, lower rep, more stimulus on the muscle. You need carbs to do that. You need muscle glycogen in your muscle to actually trigger the scientific processes that take place to get your muscle to move. So your fear of carbs needs to go away. Now it becomes a matter of what carbs do you choose. Again, quality always rules. Here's my best advice for carbs. In general, stay away from gluten. Don't eat a lot of gluten. Eat it occasionally, but don't make it a habit of eating gluten consistently. Even if you don't have a gluten allergy, for those of you that go, oh, I don't have a gluten allergy, you will develop one. Trust me. I did. I'm talking from experience. But I still eat gluten every once in a while and I still have an allergy. But I don't eat it daily. Why? Gluten can be inflammatory. Just eat it occasionally. Now, because you don't want to develop that sensitivity. Now, if you don't have a sensitivity and you are eating gluten and you are trying to put on muscle, guess what you are doing? You are crushing your body's ability to absorb all of its macros and micros, vitamins and minerals to recover the muscle. That is another reason why you are not gaining muscle. So, here's my advice on carbs. 2 things. Minimal ingredients. The less ingredients in the carb, the better. If you really want to be a badass, eat root vegetables. Like, just Google it. Google root vegetables. Like, that's like Mother Earth's superfood of carbs, all root vegetables. And then the grains, clean grains, organic grains, rices, wild rice, jasmine rice, all that fun stuff, grains. Stick to those root vegetables. Number 1, you won't regret it. Now, people always want to know about this. What about post-workout? You got to eat high glycemic carbs. Yes, that is true. Just don't eat high glycemic carbs with fat and with fiber. Why? Because then you defeat the whole purpose of it being high glycemic. High glycemic means that it's going to rush into your bloodstream faster. Why? Because if it goes into your bloodstream faster, it replenishes the glycogen faster. Reverse back. Glycogen is what triggered your muscle to move. It's what got you stronger, which when you get stronger, you do what? You break down more muscle. Now, let's go back this. So then if you're eating the right foods, it's replenishing the muscle glycogen. It's rebuilding the muscle fibers so that you can train again, more recovery. So then what happens over time? You build muscle, okay? So high glycemic foods, yes, they are beneficial post-workout. Are they absolutely necessary? No, they're not. It's really consistency over time, consistently on a daily basis. When you're building muscle, now this is going to be another light bulb for a lot of people. When you're building muscle, you need to be in a slight surplus. That's like scientifically the only way to grow. Now you can toy with that surplus, deficit, but you got to be careful. Genetics will play a huge role in that. But being in a surplus is absolutely critical. This is why I kind of cringe my teeth sometimes when people are like, yeah, I'm losing all this weight and I'm putting on all this muscle. And it's like, you're in like a huge calorie deficit, drinking like 2 shakes a day. And you're putting on all this muscle. Like they must be doing science projects on you. Like bodybuilders need to learn from you. It just blows my mind sometimes. And, that can be like they ate a bunch of rice the night before with some salt on it and they were up 4 pounds. And they're like, I put on 4 pounds of muscle because I did this bicep workout and now my biceps got 4 pounds of muscle in them. That's just not how it works. So I'm hoping you can understand this process, right? Because when you want to lose weight, sometimes you got to be in that little bit of a deficit. So you see where they're opposite ends of the spectrum here. That's why I always tell people, like, focus on getting lean first. It's healthier for your body. Get rid of that visceral body fat. Get rid of that fat so that you can be satisfied with a body fat percentage and then focus on building muscle. It's going to be a lot more fun. It's going to be a lot more realistic and it's going to be a lot more consistent. Let's see. The other thing I wanted to talk about with the nutrition side of it that I wanted to make a point earlier and I totally forgot what it was. Consistency. Building muscle with food is all about consistency. Why? How many people do you know who eat perfectly Monday through Friday and then they blow it on the weekends? They don't eat for 15, 16 hours and they eat one big meal and then they don't eat again and then they drink at night and then they don't eat all morning and then they eat shitty food the next day because they're hungover. That happens a lot. And that will derail your results, I promise you, especially if you're getting into that point where you're kind of pushing the muscle gaining, you're pushing the muscle building. Remember, your body has to stay in that nice little surplus with that balance, just feeding of macros and micronutrients to replenish and rebuild those muscles. Now, look, I'm all for a cheat meal, guys. I drink tequila. Like, I'm all about it. I eat out. I eat burgers. But I know my body. And what people don't know is what I'm doing all day leading up to that, what I have planned for the next day. I have this whole thing going through my head for the entire week just based off of experience. So if you do that on the weekends, you may put yourself in that surplus all week and you're like, yeah, your body's like, yeah, I'm going to build muscle. I'm going to build muscle. And then you do the weekend thing and you're like, no, I'm not going to build muscle anymore. And then it's like right here. So then you just plateau forever. That happens to so many people because this is what they'll say in the scientific terms. They'll say catabolic versus anabolic. Okay. Catabolic means muscle wasting. Anabolic means muscle building. Okay. So if you're anabolic, it means, you're probably in that surplus. Some people will call it a positive nitrogen balance. I don't know how that's kind of like diving down the rabbit hole of the whole thing. We're not going to go that far. This is like absorbable stuff. So we want to, when we're muscle building, we want to stay anabolic at all times. Now, here's an important aspect about the food thing that some of you guys are going to want to write down. A big reason that people continuously don't put on the muscle is because of when they sleep. That is a big deal, okay? A lot of people are going catabolic when they're sleeping, okay? So you guys may have heard, probably not, but some of you bodybuilder people will know. Some bodybuilders wake up in the middle of the night and drink a protein shake, no joke, or a meal, because through science they've discovered, through the science of their own body, they've discovered that that's the time they're going catabolic. That's the time their body is eating muscle. Because, guys, you get into this groove, you start training really hard. Think about all those compound movements. You're working out all the time. You're eating. Your appetite's going up, right? Your metabolism's going up. That's what happens when you start building muscle. The metabolism goes up. Why? Because you have more muscle tissue. Muscle needs to eat. It needs to survive. It's a living, breathing thing. Fat is just like sitting there like bricks. It doesn't need anything. Fat doesn't increase your metabolism. It's not like a moving thing. Muscle is. So the more muscle you have, the higher your metabolism is. So the higher your metabolism goes, if you don't feed that with food, then there's times during the day that you could be going catabolic, which means muscle wasting. This happens to a lot of people, especially if you have a very fast metabolism and you have those kind of genetics where you just stay lean all the time. Odds are there's times during the day that your body is going catabolic. So that's why those people is where you hear, hey, break up your meals, eat a little bit more frequently, make sure you're adding snacks, adding protein shakes, things like that throughout your day so you could prevent those catabolic moments in time, right? It's like food, 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 and those little times in between, that could be when you're going catabolic and actually losing muscle. It sounds weird, but it's like so scientifically true on a weird scientific level, if that makes sense, kind of. But anyway, aside from that, a lot of people, this happens to at night when they're sleeping. So if you are that person who stays really lean, you wake up super hungry, you have a hard time putting on muscle, this is what I would recommend to you. Eating something before bed, something that is slow digesting. Could be a slow digesting protein. Anytime you add fat, it slows down the rate of absorption of whatever the food is. So let me give you an example. If you were eating high glycemic rice, white and brown rice almost have the same glycemic index, but let's just call it what it is. Let's say white potatoes. They have a pretty high glycemic index. So you got this white potato, right? If you were to eat that potato alone, the glycemic load would be very high. It would digest and absorb super fast. Now, put a big slob of butter on that white potato. It don't digest fast anymore because those fat molecules, they attach to the carbs when they're in your digestive system and they slow the absorption. So that's why eating fat before you go to bed, some healthy fat like some almond butter, some pecans, roasted almonds, I'm trying to think of some good ones. There's a bunch of different fat sources. You could do that with the protein powder, and I'll get into the supplement next, but you know what I'm talking about. Let me see. Is there anything that I missed on that? Not really. So I know there was a lot there with the food. You may have to rewind, but the food, so you see the training and the food, when those are in sync, right? When you got the training figured out, you're hitting those. I'm just going to kind of, so we kind of stay with the tide here. You got the training figured out, okay, I need to start hitting these heavier weights, lower reps to start. Go into this hypertrophy training. I get it. This makes sense. It's breaking down more muscle. It's making me stronger, which makes me break down more muscle. Now I'm feeding that with the food. I'm eating higher quality. I'm making sure that I don't have food sensitivities, food allergies. I'm making sure my gut is good. Maybe I'm taking a probiotic. Maybe I'm taking a digestive enzyme with my food so I can make sure that all this food digests so that it can rebuild the muscle that I'm breaking down. I'm also paying attention to the quality of what I'm eating. I'm paying attention to the carbs, if they're high glycemic, low glycemic, and I'm making sure that they are low ingredients. And guess what, guys? Fruit is not bad. It is not. Fruit has a ton of vitamins and minerals. What is fruit going to do for you? It's going to keep your immunity up. Don't be scared of the too much sugar, guys. You're training. Remember, what is the carbs doing? Replenishing muscle glycogen. So if you replenish the muscle glycogen, you could train harder. If you train harder, guess what you do? You break down more muscle. You can rebuild more muscle. So don't be scared of fruit. Minimal ingredients, very good for your immune system. Now, where you get into trouble is the processed foods and taking too long in between of your meals. Now, this only applies to muscle building people, and those people who have a very high metabolism who think they could be losing muscle while they sleep, they need to supplement something in before they go to sleep. Does all that make sense? Try to stay away from gluten. Be careful with the dairy. If you have an allergy, I'm going to get into the supplementation now. Okay? This is why vegans can build muscle, guys. Like, think about that. Like, people might hate on vegans. I went vegan for like 3-4 months. Not going to lie. It was pretty dope. I don't hate on vegans. I think it's 100% possible to build muscle and be vegan or vegetarian or pescatarian. It's all about understanding all that science I just told you about and applying it to your body. Here's where we all mess up. And I've done this a million times. We see some buff dude or some buff chick that's got all the muscle and we're like, well, what do they do? So then we read up, we do a little stalking, we read up on some article and they're like, yeah, I eat oatmeal and I eat egg whites and then I eat salmon and asparagus with like a potato every day. And we're like, man, that's what they eat. And here's what happens. That's never what they eat. And then we do that and it causes all these bad things. So stop comparing. It's all about understanding the internal. And when it comes to the nutrition, the gut health, understanding what's going on here internally will be a game changer for your results. If you're prepping for a show and you're watching this, dude or chick, go get those tests. Like, make sure that you are not 3 or 4 weeks out from a bodybuilding show eating foods that you have a sensitivity to that are causing inflammation in your gut and a lack of absorption. You know how much that sucks? I swear that happened to me the whole time that I was doing that stuff. So anyway, that's we're caught up to speed. We're at 40 minutes, so I'm going to make this quick, okay? Now let's go into the supplementation. This is a very good part because notice how I got to supplementations last, because it's the least important, guys. Like literally. We get sold on the magic powder. We get sold on the magic pill. They're like, take this pill. You'll gain all the muscle in the world. And it's like, no, you won't, because that pill can't work without the nutrition and the training. All this pill has is probably some type of stimulant in there and some vasodilator that they pulled from beet juice that's going to make you feel like a beast in the gym, but really it's not doing anything. So supplements. Number one recommendation on supplements: don't take a supplement until you maximize your genetic potential. Now, I'm bringing you advice because I learned the hard way. I wish I had my advice back then, because I was that kid who was like, oh, the protein powder. Oh, I need the pre-workout. I mean, you guys remember when NO Explode came out? You'd shake that thing up in the shaker cup and it would pop the top off. Like you're drinking a science experiment. I did all that. It was not the right thing to do. I wish I would have had somebody like me telling me, dude, max out your genetic potential. Like you have good genetic potential. Max that out. Figure out the food. Figure out the training. And when you get to an absolute plateau with all of that, that's when you add in the supplement, because guess what the supplement's going to do? It's actually going to work. And it's going to work better than you thought it was going to work, because you have everything else figured out. So let's talk about some core supplements that actually do work. Glutamine, proven to work. What does it do? It enhances recovery, which when you go all the way back to the training, the recovery is the most important aspect, because you're breaking down the muscle tissue. So taking glutamine as a supplement, especially at night, because what does your body do? I didn't cover this. I could talk about this stuff all night. What does your body do when it sleeps? It recovers. That's the only reason we have to sleep, so that it can recover. Therefore, which will be the last part of this live, sleep becomes very important. Glutamine can help you recover when you sleep. Glutamine can be put into your post-workout to help you recover as well. The other proteins, typical proteins you're going to want to think about is like protein powders. So let's just talk briefly about that. I don't do dairy protein anymore, because I developed a pretty severe sensitivity to all dairy that comes from a cow. Well, that is what my test told me anyway. Once I figure out how to use this software a little bit better, I'll throw my test up right here. But yeah, pretty bad sensitivity to all dairy. So what do I take? I take a pea protein, an organic pea protein. There's nothing wrong with that, guys. I probably eat half the protein now than I used to eat when I was doing the bodybuilding. And I would argue I'm in way better shape. To me, I look better. I perform better. I move better. I'm more mobile, because I got out all that inflammation that was being caused by the dairy. And look, when you have a dairy allergy or sensitivity, whatever you want to call it, I'm not a doctor, so don't quote me here. It triggers all these symptoms in your body, and it's not fun. And you don't know what you don't know. You don't know what feeling good feels like until you actually feel good. So it just became so important to me when I realized that. So I take it out. I don't do any dairy. I mean, I eat dairy when I go have a cheeseburger or something, but that's occasionally. I don't do it on a daily basis. So when I took out the whey protein, and I don't care what quality is, guys, when you have some type of sensitivity or allergy, it's going to affect you whether it's organic or not. Now, the non-organic is going to be worse. It's going to affect you more, because there's more chemicals, there's more preservatives, and there's more toxicity in that, but it's going to affect you regardless. The moment I did that, I swear to you, I lost like 5 to 7 pounds immediately when I pulled dairy. And when I say I pulled dairy, I mean I pulled all the supplements that had dairy, the protein shakes. So you can easily do a dairy-free protein. It's going to give you relatively the same effects. Now, there will be some people that go, oh, the amino acid profile of the whey protein is so much better than the pea protein and the hemp protein and blah, 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 blah. And I'm just sitting here like, okay, I get the science. Like, I'm not saying you're wrong, but like, Is everybody like hardcore bodybuilder with like 0% fat and just like shredded to the bone getting ready to go on stage? Because that's like the only person that logic applies to, between like the amino acid stuff and the absorption. Like, it's all about consistency, guys. Like, I'll just be real with you. They just like to sell you on that stuff, but I get it. The science is there. Like, they're right. The whey protein will digest and absorb way faster than the pea protein, and it has a way better amino acid profile. Like, it does. But the simple fact is, like, if all the other shit ain't in order, then that is pointless. So anyway, protein powder quality, so important. Why? Why is it important? Because I don't want to be that person that just says, it's so important, listen to what I say. Why is it so important? Because odds are this is something you're going to be drinking every single day, multiple times a day. I sometimes do my protein pre-workout, intra-workout, and post-workout, and as a meal replacement later on in the day. So quality, because it's like 25-40% of what I'm putting in my body every day, quality is king. Poor quality equals more toxicity. More toxicity ruins your gut. If you ruin your gut, you lack absorption, increased inflammation, all those symptoms. If that happens, then your training becomes pointless and your food becomes pointless and you hit a plateau. Back to the plateau. So let me throw some muscle building tactics with supplements for you guys. This is gold information right here. Some of you guys have been on this protocol because you've been in our 16-week program. Here's a game-changing muscle building protocol. Drinking carbs before, during, and after your workout. Now, how are you going to drink carbs? There are supplements out there that are a powdered form of either an organic corn or a rice or a potato. There's supplements like Carbolin or Vitargo or something like that. You can look it up. Carbolin's a great one. Get the non-flavored one because it has the artificial flavors in it, which again will bring toxicity, which is what we don't want. Drinking a carbohydrate during your workout, 25 to 50 grams, just depends on who you are. You could drink that during a workout with protein if you wanted, or just the carb on its own. Why is that important? Because during the workout, what's happening? Do you remember? Go back to the beginning. You're breaking down the muscle tissue as you train. So what if, just thinking logically here, like conspiracy theory here, what if you could feed the muscle with sugar, carbs, glucose while you train? Then as it was breaking down, the glycogen would be getting replenished. And if the glycogen's getting replenished, then you could train longer. Then you could train harder. Then you could be stronger. Then you could break down more muscle tissue. So then if all the food's in order and all the absorption's there, then you're building more muscle. You see you see the full circle? You see where we're going at with this? So carbohydrates, prep the muscle. During, feed the muscle. Post, replenish the muscle. It works. I've seen it work every time. I do it for every training session I do. Post-workout, I'll do the carbs, a little branched chain amino acids. I don't know why, to be honest, but I throw them in there, mainly because they taste good. And they're not artificially flavored. Just throwing that out there. With my pea protein, I do that post-workout. That's my post-workout shake. Why? It's going to absorb fast. It's going to replenish the muscle fast. The carbohydrate, the glycemic load on that powdered carbohydrate is very high. So what does that mean? That means it's going to take that protein and it's going to pull it in with it a lot faster than the protein would have absorbed on its own. Another light bulb moment. Remember we talked about glycemic load and index and things absorbing and the bodybuilder dude. I don't want to say that because I was kind of like a bodybuilder dude. But the people are like, oh, whey protein, got to be this protein, got to be. Whoa. What if, right? Okay, I get you. The dairy goes in way faster than the pea. Got me. But what if you put that pea protein with something like a Carbolin that has the highest glycemic load, way higher than that protein powder? Not that the protein has anything to do with the glycemic load, but the absorption rate. What if you paired that with the pea protein? Now the pea protein is absorbing just as fast with the carbohydrates, and the only people that should be worried about that are the ones that are trying to put on muscle, and the ones that are trying to put on muscle should be the ones that are taking the carbohydrate post-workout, not the ones that are trying to lose weight. So all this supplement, remember guys, all this supplement talk does not apply if you're trying to lose weight. You really don't even need this stuff, which I see a lot of people taking, and we could just talk about that on another live. So I am getting really thirsty. We are at 50 minutes. I need to wrap this up, guys. Now look, everything that I'm coming at you guys with in this live, let me tell you why I'm confident in saying all of this for two reasons. Reason number one, I've been training for 15 years. People don't really believe me. Like, I'll play devil's advocate here. Oh, well, dude, you're like 31. So like, what were you, like 15? I was 14. Yeah, I was fat and I wanted to train and I wanted to get better and I wanted to put on muscle. I've been obsessed with this process for 16 years of trial and error, going to school, researching the data. I was a pre-med student for 3 years. Not even because I wanted to be a doctor, just so I could take the nutrition classes and understand the chemical makeup and the anatomy of the body whenever it had something to do with nutrition. Anytime they would talk about anything that wasn't relative to like exercise and nutrition, I literally just sucked at school. Like I'm like the average kid. But once they hit me with that, oh, well, I was like, whoa. So anyway, that's reason number one. I'm obsessed with this stuff. I've done the research. I've done the data. Reason number two, our 16-week program, the will-powered 16-week muscle building program has a 100% success rate. Let me say that again. A 100% success rate. All this stuff I just talked about is what we do in our 16-week program. It is how, but we do it on a custom level to you. The protein intakes, the foods, the carbs, the supplements, the training, it is all adjusted to you. Take all those concepts. Look, most of you guys can take all this information. If you wrote shit down, apply it to your workout the next 4 months and you will see results, I promise you. Or some of you may go, damn, Will, that was a lot of stuff, but that sounds legit, but like I couldn't do that on my own. Our programming can do that for you. It is our 16-week program. Look, I ain't going to sit here and try to sell you guys. I'm just trying to tell you the justification for what I'm talking about. We've worked with hundreds of people and we have a 100% success rate on our muscle building program because these principles work when they are applied consistently over time. So if you're interested in our muscle building program, just shoot me a message. Comment, shoot me a message. Just make sure it comes to my inbox or Brianna Owen. She's the head coach for these. Shoot her a message. She knows a lot. You remember how I talked about how important that gut stuff was? That's what she specializes in. She's actually an integrative health practitioner. That's like way better than me. So that's the truth. That's why our 16-week program is boss. So anyway, let's wrap this all together because I am so thirsty and I'm getting hungry and I got to get off because I will rant more. What does this all mean? It means be consistent with it. It means self-discover the things that you need to be successful with building muscle. It's not that complicated, guys. What it takes is consistency, and that's what most of us don't have. We don't have the persistence and the patience. Those true dudes out there and women who know how to build real muscle, they will tell you it takes patience. It ain't going to happen in 30 days. So don't think you're going to come into our 30-day challenge and build muscle because it's not going to happen. Don't think you're going to get on your 30-day kit and you're going to build muscle. Don't think some coach or some trainer is going to sell you on 30 days you're going to build muscle. No. You may have the onsets of it, but it's all about patience and consistency. Think about that. Like, map that out. Don't just sit here and listen to this and be like, yeah, some of that makes sense. Some of it doesn't. Or maybe you're like, yeah, it does make sense. And then go walk off back into your reality and not do anything I said. Literally write this shit out. Like map this out, put it against your workout, see where your bottlenecks are, see where your weak points are, train your weak points harder, see where you're missing the mark on the food, see where you might be messing up with your gut, eating the foods that are causing inflammation, the lack of absorption, the parts where you're going catabolic, maybe at night, the lack of supplementation if you've reached your genetic potential. Figure out what those gaps are, guys, because when you fill them and then you do it consistently over time, you put on muscle. Building muscle is straight up scientific. The only exception to the rule are the genetic freaks, which those are the ones all over the magazines that I promise you do not eat eat the diets that you see that they write. I promise you they don't. 99.9% of us need to follow these principles just consistently with patience over time. There's a lot of great trainers that I know out there that can train you. If you live in Arizona and you need a personal trainer for muscle building, shoot me a message because I know the best and I will refer you out. I don't train people, but I know the best. I know people that I wouldn't even trust myself training. I would only trust them training me. So depending on where you live in Arizona, I know the best. If you're somewhere else, shoot me. Maybe I'll know somebody over there. But if you want online nutrition programming for this and you think nutrition is your flaw and you need to put that all together, come to us. Get on our 16-week program. You have nothing to lose. We have 100% success rate. Like, you've nothing to lose if that is your main concern. But other than that, we're at 55 minutes, guys. I appreciate all of you guys staying on. We had a really good audience tonight. I hope my audio was good. First time with this software. I'm telling you, I'm going to enhance this every time, bring you guys more fresh content. I couldn't look at the comments because honestly, they were just distracting me like they are right now because I'm trying to read it. Look, there is no perfect body fat percentage to go into a muscle building program. I don't even like body fat percentage. It's weird. Like, look in the mirror. Look in the mirror. Are you satisfied with what you see? And if you do look good and you're just not satisfied because you have body dysmorphia, then maybe you need a psychologist. But you need to look and see. Look, you don't have to be 2% body fat. You don't have to be 4% body fat. There's no standard. It's honestly, here's what you need to hear. And I wish there were bodybuilders on here watching this live. When I was my absolute leanest, I felt my absolute worst. And I have heard that come from the majority of bodybuilders I know or fitness competitors. When you are at your leanest, you will feel your worst because that's unrealistic. The body has to have some sort of body fat on it. You are not going to walk around with a six-pack all day, just veins rolling up your abs. Those are the genetically gifted. I'm not saying it's not possible, but most of the time it's temporary. You have to understand that the body fat percentage that you need to be to build muscle is the body fat percentage that you are happy at, that you feel good. Your hormones are functioning well. Your skin is good. You feel energetic. That is when you know, and you feel like you want to put on some muscle. That is when you transition into one of our programs. There is no perfect body fat. Do not strive for that super lean. I promise you, when you get there, you won't like it. You can't even sniff a carb. Like, I sniffed a carb and got fat straight up. It ain't fun. Those bodybuilder guys will tell you. But anyway, guys, I'm shutting this down. If you have questions for me, mention me in a comment. And I promise you I will answer the question. You could also ask Brianna Owen. She's the head coach for our 16-week program. She crushes it. So anyway, guys, I'm thirsty. I'm hungry. Feel free to shoot me some food. You could Postmates that to me. Just no gluten, no dairy. We'll be good. I'm out of here, guys. Hope you liked it. See ya.